everybody. So, this is live. I am live right now. And I am down here. Let's take a tic-tac right here. Okay. Now, what I want to do, because this is a live for Venus going retrograde, is, now, one of the things, first of all, I'm Everett Curdy. Welcome to my channel. If you're watching this, and if you haven't subscribed, I would really encourage you to do so to help this channel grow. And like this video, and go check out my other astrology videos and like those videos, because they will really get out to more people because of the YouTube algorithm. Clicking that like button really helps to get the content out to more people, because I do put a lot of time and work into my videos. I'm very serious about the astrology that I talk about, and I personally want the information that I give to be more viewed and available to the masses. So, I'm not, coming on, YouTube and doing this just to sort of be in the background. I want to share what I have to give. And so I'd encourage you to do that. If you haven't checked out my video for the week, because every single week I do an astrology video. I go through the different astrological events occurring for that particular week. And so you can check out that video as well. I've linked a lot of other important videos in that video. Now, if you want to really understand the nuts and the bolts and the nitty-gritty information when it comes to this Venus retrograde in Leo, that I have another extended video on that Venus retrograde. So we're just going to see what's going to happen. I may pull up more information on it. Who knows? I'm just going to sort of roll with the punches in this live stream. And we're just going to see what's going to happen, because I don't know it's going to be happening. And this is going to be completely unplanned. I'm not looking at the camera. This is going to be unplanned, spontaneous, what I want to do in the moment. And we're going to see what's going to happen. So I like to play piano. But let me just say that I am learning the technical skills of playing piano, because I'm still in the process of learning, reading notes, and because I have just recently been trained from a piano teacher to learn how to read music and do, play the piano in the proper fingering. But all my life I have enjoyed playing piano, and just enjoyed playing piano by ear. Just for the sheer joy of, singing to it and playing it. So I'm going to be playing some music that I think is very reminiscent and very almost celebratory, I guess you could say, for this Venus retrograde. One astrologer that I really would encourage you to check out is Kelly Rosano. Now, if you go to Kelly Rosano's YouTube channel, you'll find that it has not been updated for a long time as far as I'm concerned. She does have a video that she filmed back in 2015. It's called something along the lines of Venus in Leo, Jupiter in Virgo, something along those lines. And she spoke about the Venus retrograde in Leo, because one of the things about Venus retrograde is it takes 8 years for it to cycle back around. So 8 years ago, Venus went retrograde at the very beginning of Virgo, and it went back into Leo. This year, 8 years later, Venus is retrograde entirely in the sign of Leo. And so a lot of what she speaks about when it comes to the Venus retrograde in Leo really pertains to this time. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into some music. That was a fumble. Let me try that again. I don't like it when I make mistakes. so that was that part of the live stream. Now, I do believe that Venus is now retrograde. Stationary retrograde, and I realize that I do not have to commit to this live stream if I feel like I want to stop and do something else. So now I want to talk about some stuff. Now, so Venus is going to be retrograde from today all the way to September 3rd. So for the next 40 or so days, we are really going to go inside ourselves. We're really going to reflect on anything that we love and we find beautiful. Anything that brings us joy, anything that brings us pleasure. Now, the funny thing is, we may not know what that is during this time. When it comes to anything that comes up during this span of time, if during this span of time you suddenly find that you are into something that you never were into before, that's something really important to note, because that's information. So one of the things that I also want to, I don't want to show off for those of the people watching this that do not have the feature that I'm using right now. That's not fair to them. Now, hypocrite, because I'm using it. I'm perfectly aware that what I'm using requires you to have 50 subscribers or more, and I want to own that. And so, you know, I do apologize if you're one of the people watching this and you don't have the feature that I am using. I just, want to say that honestly, because it isn't fair that certain, if you're into, YouTube, creating, then you'll find that not all the features are available to everybody when they sign on to the platform. Some of them are, but some have to be attained through a certain amount of subscribers. Some of them have to be attained through, I don't know. And you can only make money through your videos when you produce content if you have a certain number of followers. And don't even get me started about the play buttons. Because, and I just want to say this before getting back to my main point. If you have, I'm probably wrong about this, but if you have 1K followers or over that amount, you get a play button, which represents not you and your success and the quality and the content and the effort that you put into your videos alone. It represents how popular the videos are because of all the people watching them, because of the high demand for your videos, because they're getting so much attention. So I really don't want people, content creators, to get that reward and to think, oh, this is an award that I got. This is, my award. This is an award, if you want to even call it a reward, and I'll say that in quotations, an award that you got because other people were responsible for giving you this award. Other content creators, other, your subscribers. You only have this. And your worth for getting this award, for getting the play button, is based around everyone else subscribing to you and giving you the views and giving you the likes and giving you the following. And I find that really sad because I think that it sends a message of, and this ties into Venus and Leo. You know, we are in Leo season now. Is that I really think that it's sad that people's, content creators who want to create content and put out videos and put out content and create have the interest, have the energy, like what they do. They're passionate about what they do. They, wake up with, maybe a sense of purpose for why I am creating the content that I am creating. But then, what about the subscribers? What about all the bells and whistles that YouTube gives to you when you have a certain following? What about, oh, I want to get this following just to make money. I want to come on YouTube just so I can get a following and make money. And I don't want to say that it can lead to narcissism by any means, but it does create a sense that I am not good enough unless I have this many people following me, watching my videos. And I am worthy of having this if I am this popular. Instead of just the content creator being who they are alone for the content that they create alone, regardless of anybody else, regardless of how popular they are. And so I feel like it twists around the values of people and why they would decide to be content creators on YouTube. I think it twists the values of content creators, and it sort of probably takes what is more important, steers it in another direction, and then it's about those play buttons. And I don't know if I would accept the play button if I was handed it. I don't know, I'd probably throw it away, put it, in the shed, find a use for it. I don't know. And it's also kind of rude and unfair why people would be putting those in their videos and showing those things off, even if those things are not up front and in the background. It's still in the video. So I would really recommend for content creators who have 1K subscribers or over that amount, who have those play buttons, to not put those things in their videos, because it is a distraction. It's a distraction. It's rude to the people who do not have those things, and it makes you look better and bigger and more famous and more worthy than the people who do not have what you have, not necessarily below you, but do not have that following, do not have this particular thing. And I find it really sad that this is the way that it is. So I really don't think that people should be putting a lot of importance and a lot of value on these particular things. I feel like they should not be very valuable to people. And, saying thank you to your audience, saying thank you, because I have this and you don't. That's that message that you're sending when people show those things in their videos. And I'm really against those play buttons. So I just want to say that, but it also ties into Venus retrograde in Leo. And the reason why is because there could be a sense when Venus is retrograde, a reflection on your self-worth. And what do you base your self-worth around? Do you base it on people giving you this amount of following, this amount of attention in your life in general. Needing other people to validate you in order to give you the attention. Or can you turn that on yourself and give yourself validation and give your inner validation, inner security, inner self-worth, that you are allowed to shine and able to shine, and you can shine and take up as much space as you want. And you don't need other people to necessarily make that happen. And that's the Aquarius part, where you go off on your own individual path and you are not so wrapped up into what other people think of you. But on the same token, Leo is about how other people think of me. So this video is not necessarily only an introduction to Venus retrograde in Leo, but an introduction to Leo season. I figured I would combine the two together, because Leo energy, we're going to be dealing with this for the next 30 days. It is about you as a spiritual being having the sense of empowerment inside yourself to shine your light unapologetically. And so Venus retrograde could reveal potentially where you do not feel that sense of power within yourself. That on a subconscious, unconscious level, and you may not even be aware of it. I can tell you that I may not be aware of it. That in your relationships, of where you are not allowed to shine and be authentically yourself in your creative self-expression. Now, I say that thinking to myself, I don't necessarily relate to that, because I do feel in my relationships that I can take up, the space that I want to, and I can, express myself creatively in the ways that I want to. And I'm going to be transparent and honest about that, and that may not be everyone's experience. Because everyone has their own experience. So where in your relationships are you not able? Do you feel like you cannot express yourself with whatever you are passionate about doing? You feel like you can't do what you were inspired to do. You feel like, gosh, I want my creative talents and creative ability and what I have to give to be more loved, to be more popular, to be more appreciated. Kind of like what I'm saying about my content, about more people viewing it. And it may have you rethinking, what do you do creatively? And actually, maybe I'm not that into that creative hobby as I thought I was into. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe I'm starting to realize that creative thing that I started, it's suddenly coming up for me that, that would be a great idea. So, preferably recommended by the astrologers. Any creative, I feel like I'm, talking in a low. Okay, this is a live stream. Okay, there we go. Any creative thing. I'm really disconnecting from you right now, and I don't want to do that. So this is a live stream, and I'm not going to be a perfectionist. That's the whole point of live stream. So I'm going to put it right there, and I hope that this phone, which I care so much about, like my child, does not fall on me. All right. Hopefully I'm not too low. Hopefully you can see me just fine. I may be looking up, just forewarned about that, so hopefully I'm not wasting my breath over the quality of what you're viewing is not very good. Anyway, what I do want to say is that astrologers recommend, okay, well, something creative that you initiated in the past, that you're rekindling that interest, as opposed to this brand new idea that I want to initiate that is creative, that is something that I love. Especially when it comes to big time purchases. Now, If during this particular span of time there is something that turns you on, that you want to invest your money in, that you want to purchase, then I would suggest taking a little bit of time and thinking it over. Maybe talking it out with someone in your world, maybe reflecting on it, maybe sitting with it a little bit, meditating on, is this really worth buying? Because one of the things about Venus retrograde is you don't realize it until it goes direct, where you end up buying something and then Venus goes direct on September 3rd and you're like, why on earth did I invest in this? Because now I am seeing things a little bit more clearly and this is not for me. So, it is very wise not to get caught up in something. This is a precaution from astrologers to not get caught up in, oh, I want this. I want to buy this. Or I think a really good example would be, oh, I'm trying to wow the neighborhood. And I'm going to buy all of these decorations that I want to put up onto my house. And then you invest tons of money, and then you look back when Venus goes direct around that time, and you're like, why did I do that? Or maybe you end up buying something that you're really caught up in, and you really want to buy and you really want to have, and then you realize that it's not for me. So it's really, really interesting. Where you're meditating on what do you like? What do you love? And so those are some things to unconsciously ponder, I want to say. Consciously ponder, correction. But so something else that comes to mind with Venus retrograde is, well, people that come back into your lives. It could be an ex-lover or a friend that you've known a while ago and you sort of parted ways, and then they may come back into your life at this time. It's very, very interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic when you re-see somebody, but maybe that was meant to happen. Where any connection, well, I don't want to say any connection, but certainly the huge connections that you make may be meant to be. So if there's somebody you meet, it may go deeper. It may be very karmic, maybe a profound spiritual reason for that. And I also want to say that it may be peculiar meeting people. Because one of the little tidbits is that you meet somebody and you get to know them and then you see them in a different way when Venus turns around. And when it comes to dating somebody, when it comes to meeting somebody, you may know so much about them, and then you discover something about them, and you're like, wow, I really didn't know that. It may change the dynamic of the relationship. It may make waves for something that you really did not see coming, and it's very unexpected. Throughout the course of the Venus retrograde, there are going to be squares to Uranus taking place. So we experienced the first square of the Venus retrograde on, I think it was July 2nd, and then we're going to have another one. I think it's going to be in August or September or something like that. And then another one in September, October. I forget the dates of those squares. You can check out my extended video on the Venus retrograde to find out those dates. But what was so interesting is that the last time this happened, when Venus was retrograde in Leo, Venus was in Leo and Uranus was in Aries and Jupiter was in Leo. So at the very beginning of August, there was an alignment of Venus and Jupiter. Now Venus is going to square Jupiter in Taurus. Leo and Taurus square each other in astrology. They're both fixed signs. They're both 90 degrees apart from each other. They do square in astrology, and that can be challenging, but is the growth beneficial? Absolutely. So Uranus is in Taurus, Jupiter is in Taurus. So when Venus squares Uranus, it may be a time where you may want to get to the bottom of any secrets in relationships, but it may be also a time where anything which has been stagnant or stuck, you may want to change around. You may want something which is really dynamic, very exciting. That I want to try this, that I want to do this thing, and it's, the unexpected. So, which is Uranus. It is always about you didn't expect this, Um, and if there is a certain dynamic in the relationships which may feel really limiting, could it be a time where, well, you know what, I want to break out of this relationship at the extremes, or I want to talk about my independence and my need for boundaries, or there's a certain way I've been approaching this that I need to change around, or maybe we need to change some things up and make it a little bit more passionate and exciting. Those may be a couple of ways the squares to Uranus may show up. But, um, uh, in general, um, this is going to this whole Venus retrograde in Leo is going to take a look at where has the enthusiasm and the passion just burned out. You lit a flame and it suddenly just fizzled out. And now you feel like this would be a good time to reignite that flame. One way that it could show up is feeling sort of, sort of shyness when it comes to feeling like you cannot necessarily shine your light. But, in general, what would be encouraged is really opening up your heart. Because we're working with Leo energy. It's a really strong and dynamic, heartfelt energy that isn't cold and calculating. It is very warm and very big and very loud. And so if you can open your heart and just wake up during the days and do things that really turn you on and light you up when you can. Find that time where you're just doing something where you're in the creative space of, I am doing this from my heart. I am doing this because it is my passion. It is what I enjoy. And identifying a passion, finding a passion, finding something to do that inspires you. Finding something that really gives you that sense of purpose. And finding something where you can shine and show it to others, and you want to inspire others to greatness as well through this. And one of the things I do associate with Leo is a hero energy of I'm sort of at the rescue, and I'm here. I'm loyal to you. It is the fixed signs. The fixed signs are very, very, they can be very loyal in relationship. Venus is the planet of relationships, so that's what we're talking about. So stepping into a situation and being a hero if need be is a good thing during this time and in general. Saying something and being genuine about it, being authentic about it, not saying it because it's the right thing to say, not saying it because you are just trying to do what is ethical and morally right in terms of connecting with another person, but it really feels genuine connection, and it feels like I really want to connect with you in this way, or I really want to do this thing for you. I really want to give you this. I really want to share this connection with this particular person. So, working with that heart energy is really something huge. Um, and so, yeah. So I do want to say that Leo is the sun, and so the sun's going to be playing a huge role during this particular time. And Leo says you're really the center of your universe. Every single person, just like all the planets, revolve around you. And if you can, um, empower yourself, it really, really encourages you to others to do the same. I am taking that from Kelly Rosano's video that I mentioned earlier on the Venus retrograde in Leo. So this is a reflective time. Some of the images that I get with Venus retrograde in Leo, and I'm going to talk about more of the maybe things you want to avoid. Who knows? But one of the images that I get is a woman who has red hair, orangish hair, who is probably in a band called the Hex Girls. And so this band, and I'm going to sort of backtrack to 2015 because this is what happened in 2015. Is Venus was retrograde in Leo. So I also think about that. I also associate a woman who goes and gets her nails done in the very dark, dark colored nails. Maybe you pour yourself a glass of wine in your house alone. Venus is really going on vacation for the next 40 or so days. Venus is sort of going into reflection, going to sleep. Not necessarily shutting down, but it's backtracking, it's having a slow down. It is taking a little bit of a moonwalk or backspin during this time. And so its power is amplified because Venus is also closer to the Earth. So the Venus energies are more amplified, but it's also less strong. And also, the energies are a little bit more internal, a little bit less external. And so Venus is going to have to wake up and unpack and get back into its groove, around September 3rd. So around that particular date, any new relationship that you want to initiate, any marriage agreement, any business contract or housing plan, whatever it is that is Venus ruled, I wouldn't rush this particular planet. Give it some time to get its bearings. Give it, a few days, necessarily speaking. And so one of the things that astrologers say is plastic surgery as a no-no, and also getting a new hair color. Anything that you want to experiment with that is creative, why not? Allow yourself to be creative. Leo energy. That's the Leo energy. But if it comes to, well, I'm investing money in this, and it's, it all depends. It's all relative. But the other little piece that I want to throw in here is to think back, to put your thinking cap on and think what was going on in 2015. What was your creative hobbies in 2015? What were you doing creatively? How were you expressing yourself creatively? And I was very different. I was younger, my speech was not as good as it was now, and I was really into pretending to teach. So what I did was, I had a camera set up in my sunroom, and I pretended that there were people, students there, and I pretended to teach, and I had something super made up. I called it the Amenten, Amenten. And it's part, I'm welcoming in a pretend guest from a movie or a TV show or somebody, I don't know, that I was interested in. And I pretended to invite them in, give them a tour, and honor them and look at why did I pretend to invite them to my invention. Looking at why I probably was attracted to that person, I want to say, in a way. Looking at who they were in resemblance to, celebrating them, and Leo's a celebration. So that celebration that Leo energy could get a little bit muted with Venus retrograde in Leo, or it could be more within, more, you're going inside yourself with the Venus retrograde. And Venus is very strong, Venus and Leo, wonderful placement in its own way, because Venus is love, and, Leo is the power of love. And if at a certain time, if you're not feeling that love, that heartfelt connection to other people, that love for, what you find beautiful in your life, or, pleasureful, or your own sense of self-worth is, taking a backwater turn, whatever it is, because Venus is love, romance, pleasure, money, all of these issues. It is about doing things that you can do to really tap into the power of love. And also being mindful of how you're spending your money, not making impulse purchases, necessarily speaking. But anyway, back to my personal story before I close down the live stream, is I was very different in 2015. And so it's part, as I was saying, I was talking about my invention thing. So it's part inviting guests in. Another part that I made up was putting on certain occasions, like we would, pretend to, not actually, but go places and celebrate these people that I would pretend to invite. And then it was also me teaching. So there's also that part of it. So I really felt like at the time I expressed myself very creatively through that. And it was something that I was really turned on by. It was very natural to me. And I look back going, wow, I had a lot of enthusiasm. And at the time, I was very into it. I was really passionate. I was really feeling very alive and very into it. And I enjoyed pretending to read a story to the pretend, people that I had. I enjoyed singing and, doing music and really feeling like I was in like a strong sense of power and authority and self-confidence through that. I mean, whatever gives you a sense of personal power, wonderful to do at this time. Great, especially what gives you that sense of self-worth. And I feel like now that creative, enthusiastic energy that I had in 2015 when I did the pretend videos, I am now, 8 years later, to be continued. Now I am channeling that into this, into what is actually legitimately public videos, a public channel, people watching this, anyone out there, a real audience. So I feel like it was meant to be. I feel like it was fated that I would come on YouTube and social media and do this. I feel like it was meant to be, and it was inevitable that, if I'm, into videos, and I've been into videos ever since I can remember, that it's sort of taken different forms, and now it's reached the phase of I am actually making videos and expressing myself creatively to a real audience at this point. And so I am taking that energy and being authentically myself in the way that is me, who I am now, what I'm into now, how I want to express myself now, as opposed to back then. I am not for changing my voice as I was now, because back then I really enjoyed changing my voice. Um, Speaking in a pretend voice, being really, really creative with, this voice that I want to pretend to be, or this character that I wanted to put on. Um, Now it's very much real, where I'm not pretending anymore. I feel like the pretend, like that, the passion from the pretend, the enthusiasm, the spark, the inspiration that I got, the thrill that I got from that is not there anymore. And I'm not for being pretend now. I'm talking all about being authentically yourself and being, who you are. And I'm finding the same power and the same passion and the same meaning and enthusiasm from that as I got from what I did in 2015. Something else that happened in 2015 was that was the year that I cultivated my fear of bugs, flies, and now I can happily say that I am no longer afraid of flies, gnats, mosquitoes, but I have a fear of wasps and bees because not only do they buzz, but they sting, and that buzzing sound really makes me kind of cringe. It makes me uncomfortable, and I am afraid of it. I hear it, and I'm a little, I've gotten used to it. When you get used to something, it no longer necessarily bothers you, affects you in the negative way, or even a positive. I mean, it no longer affects you in the way that it did at first. When you get used to something for worse, if it was something negative, it can be, well, this doesn't bother me anymore. I'm fine with this. But when you get used to something and you liked it originally, I just don't feel like, because I've gotten so used to it, I don't find that passion that I got from it. So that romantic, passionate honeymoon phase in your relationships, your creative hobbies, this may be a time where you want to rekindle that. You want to, go back to that. And look back to the creative things that you did back then. If you've ever seen the movie The Magic Railroad, which is a Thomas and Friends film, I'm going to probably watch that during this particular time, because it's one of those random things that I think of when I think of this, and for some reason I think of Venus Retrograde in Leo and I see a fan blade. I don't know why, it's super random, but anyway. So, I don't really have too much else to say when it comes to that. I will, I think Venus retrograde in Leo, doing some self-love, really loving yourself is going to be very huge. Journaling, all those kind of things like that, things that you do for yourself that say, I love myself. Positive affirmations for yourself are wonderful to do during the Venus retrograde, affirming positive things where you affirm it. And you know what? I really believe this. I really believe it. And I don't care what the astrologers say. I don't care the, precautions I'm going to do. I'm going to express myself in the way that I feel like, is right for me to do so. And, and just, seeing what happens, because that Leo energy is a fixed energy, and it does not want to be held down. It does not want to be limited. It does not want to be inhibited. Leo energy does not want to be told what to do, and it does not want to limit its creative expression. So now my creative expression has opened up more because now I am putting it out there to the public. It used to be more private, and now I have grown in a way where that has become, the creative expression now is put on the public, as opposed to standing in a room pretending to put that creative expression onto pretend people, talking into thin air, pretending like there's really people there. So, um, I really hope that you enjoy this Venus retrograde. Maybe I'll do more live streams like this. Maybe I'll come on and sit in my room on my bed and talk about some profound things that come up as they come up. We will see what happens. During this particular period of time, I just want to throw in there that during the last part of August, Mercury will also be going retrograde, so it's really going to be very internal. The last time that Mercury and Venus were both retrograde was in January of 2022. From the 14th to the 29th of January, both Mercury and Venus were retrograde in Capricorn. The funny thing was Mercury was retrograde in Aquarius. It retrograded back into Capricorn, but the whole entire time Venus was retrograde in Capricorn. It's going to be huge to look for the things that came up for you during the last Venus retrograde in Leo, in the area of life that it falls in your chart, and what is occurring now in terms of what you find pleasurable, what you find beautiful, any relationship dynamics, all those kind of things. It's going to be huge to look for that and to, bear that in mind and to keep tabs on that during this particular time and see how have you really grown and evolved from 2015 to now, all of what I've been talking about. Now, Mercury is going to be retrograde at the end of August in Virgo, so we're going to really be going with it at that time. I'm going to do a separate video on Mercury retrograde in Virgo. And so Mercury, and so there's something really interesting happening in August, because it is what is known as the new moon in Leo on the 16th of August happening. Any garage sale that you want to do at this time where you're giving away past objects and you're reinventing them, making them modern, making them usable. Well, that object that I had sitting in my garage, is that, it could be used for something. I should pull that out again. I should make use of it. Finding appreciation for those things is also great. Now, I am aware that there are astrologers out there who have a really interesting word. And the word is, it's spelled Cazimi. It's called a Cazimi. That's what it's called. Do not take my word for that. I don't. That's not necessarily how I refer to Sun when a planet conjuncts the Sun, but basically, it's a powerful time when a planet comes to conjunct the Sun. Basically, so you can have a Mercury conjunction or Mercury Cazimi. And I find it really important for astrologers explain what a Cazimi is, because some people may not have any idea what you're referring to, and you're like, what is that? I don't know what that is. Yeah, so that can, it's a term that's used in Vedic astrology, but it's also used in Western astrology, or, I would say mainstream astrology, in my opinion. But the Cazimi. So we're really going to see things clearer when we get to August 12th, around August 12th, when we have that conjunction of the Sun and Venus. And the Sun is going to be in its ruling sign in Leo all throughout this Venus retrograde season. So we're really having the idea to work with the Leo energy very strongly. And so we can reflect and go internal, but we can also step outside of ourselves. And, the Sun wants to shine. It wants to, put itself out there. It wants to be an individual. It wants to express itself, be authentic. In Leo. So we're really dealing with the Leo energy really strongly. Now, the Sun, personal power, individuality coming to conjunct Venus, you may really want to do what you find pleasurable, you find beautiful, It's a great time for love, romance, connecting with people on a much more deeper level. You may feel more social around that time. It's a great idea for love making, and again, the same things that I've been talking about, doing what you're passionate about. And really, if you have not felt that sense of personal power and empowerment, that Sun Venus conjunction is going to be the time when you want to do what really puts you in that place of passion and personal power. And so there is going to be a conjunction this week, actually, Mercury conjunct Venus. So now we're communicating much more socially, much more beautifully. It's a much more social time. You may want, be kind, having healthy conversations with others where there's a give and take. You're listening to the other person. They're connecting with you. So we're getting some more mental clarity on what we're dealing with during this Venus retrograde season. The other feature to this is that it's going to square Jupiter a couple of times. And the squares to Jupiter, it's interesting because the last time that Venus was retrograde in Leo, it was in a beautiful trine with Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter moved into Virgo when Venus was retrograde in Leo. So, it caught it at the tail end at the beginning of August of 2015. There was a moment when Venus-Jupiter conjuncted. And so you have the two benefic planets, Venus and Jupiter, expansion, abundance, optimism, faith, travel, joy. Jupiter wants to make life a party, basically. And so when you have Venus in square with Jupiter, where have you been overdoing it? Where have you been overindulging or, having too much sugar, pleasure? Where maybe is moderation necessary? That's one thing I would say for that, those squares. And I talk about the squares more in that long extended video on this transit. It's also going to trine Chiron, and the Chiron is the wounded healer. It's an asteroid. It orbits between Saturn and Uranus, and it's the healer that can heal other people, but not necessarily fully healing itself. And Chiron's in Aries, so we're dealing with our individual wounds, the wounds with our identity. We're dealing with where we could not put ourselves out there, do what we want to, go after a vision that we want to chase, a goal that we want to achieve, anything that we want to achieve, and really being authentically ourselves. I think that this Venus retrograde in Leo and Chiron in Aries, which will go retrograde tomorrow on July 23rd. So Chiron's going retrograde in Aries. Venus is going retrograde. So it's, we're really, really going to do some deep work on ourselves, some deep reflection, maybe even some shadow work, dealing with our authentic self-expression during this time, and really redefining who we are and who we want to be in the world. Do we feel like we could be the person that we wanted to? Do we feel the sense of self-empowerment again to put ourselves out there and be who we truly want to be? And, or are we letting the opinions of other people put us down, squash us, for us not to be our authentic self, basically? And so that, Chiron is really going to bring up, Venus is really going to pull up, and Chiron's going to bring up those wounds from the past. That at this time, we're going to be going through the reflection, and we're going to be doing some healing and some internal work. Neptune's going retrograde, Pluto retrograde, Saturn retrograde. I believe that Uranus is going to go retrograde during this time as well, if I'm wrong. Yeah. So Pluto retrograde is those deep, intense emotions that are perfectly buried emotions. Again, shadow work with Pluto retrograde. Pluto retrograde in general is a time for shadow work. It is a time to go below the surface and see what's percolating, see what we're marinating on, and um, and heal and transform and yeah. So, yeah, that's really all that I want to say on this particular Venus retrograde. I hope I didn't exhaust the Venus retrograde, and now Venus is actually retrograde. I think I am going to stop this live stream now. I really hope that you enjoyed and found value out of this live stream. I would encourage you to like this live stream once again if you haven't yet, and I will see you on another video. Catch you another time.